Oh yeah, it is.
Sure
Recording
enough,
in
it is.
progress. Welcome to another episode, another but a goodie of Lawless Podcast with Justin and Clayton. As always, I'm Clayton. This is my best bud, Justin, and we are here to rock your socks off a little
Let's,
bit.
let's chop it up. And
Here,
your socks may get rocked off in the chopping off. Nope,
no,
nope, chopping up.
your socks don't have a chance. Either way, your
No,
socks are getting
they're
hurt.
they're coming off one way or the other.
They're getting off. Achoo! Have you ever seen any like videos or gifs? It's kind of my favorite of someone's their toes curl and their socks just shoot right off of them.
No,
Oh.
that's a thing.
Oh, well, maybe it is, maybe it's not. I used to use that visual to explain all sorts of different stories when in my youth of like made my toes curl, shot my socks right off my feet.
No, I've never conceived of such a thing. Actually,
Yeah, well, you got to get a little bit more imaginative
yeah,
with your storytelling.
loosen up my creativity, my creative mind.
Yeah, dude.
Uh, Homie, I'll tell you. I see you're wearing a jacket, which
Yeah.
makes me wonder how cold it is out there. It's like
It's
the high today out here is 20 degrees.
mm,
Useless.
gross.
Yes, there's nothing useful about this weather.
Which is not the main, but one of the many reasons we're doing this on Zoom and not in person all the time, because I do not like the cold. It is 53 degrees. It's uh, freezing. I mean, just shivering 53 degrees out here. And there was a light mist earlier, and that just
Yeah.
even adds on to it. So, yeah, I got to get my fleece.
Is this about as cold as it gets for you guys?
No, at night it will get down into the 30s. I gotta bring my wife loves this. I have a giant pot of white sage that grows out on my back patio,
Yeah.
and white sage was cultivated and is natural to Southern California and northern Mexico. So that's the kind of climate that it likes.
Okay.
And I've been bringing a big pot full of white sage into the house because they don't like the cold.
Yeah.
And I've just been setting it on a towel in the middle of the living room.
Oh, I'm sure she appreciates that.
She loves it. She hasn't said a whole lot, but I can tell it's like nice.
Does sage have a smell when it's not burning?
Yeah, but you have to. Well, it depends, I guess, on how sensitive your olfactory glands are and how strong that particular bundle of sage is. But yeah, you can smell it when it's not burning.
Yeah. Is it just a big bundle or is it a pot? I'm not sure how sage
Don't
grows.
make me pause this and bring my girls in here and show them off to you. It's about a one foot high black plastic pot, not the right kind of pot you're supposed to grow it in. I should put it in a clay pot, but it's about a 1 foot high black plastic pot with maybe a foot and a half diameter around.
Okay. Okay. And it's got multiple bundles, or it's one bundle that has multiple
Well,
shoots.
I didn't do it correctly. I planted them in the shape of a smiley face and just poured the seeds in the smiley face and covered them with dirt.
That
And it
sounds
didn't,
pretty correct to me. That sounds like the best way to do it.
yeah, I wanted it to be my happy sage. So
Yeah. Yeah.
how do you grow happy sage? Well, they sprouted that way and they grow that way. So they're about a year and a half old now, all the plants. And I as I understand it, they're all female, so I call them my ladies. But they don't have the proper space that they should. So they're like pushing themselves out and taking up. They're at about 3/4 of the soil now.
Okay.
I've put other plants in there to kind of like help take up space, and they all die. Oh no,
Is
I have a yupin or yapin. I don't know it's how it's supposed to pronounce. A yupin holly tree that's growing in there, which is the only true North American tea tree. The only native North American tea tree is a yupin holly,
okay.
and you've seen it. They're normally used as bushes, like outside of office buildings, and like as if you don't let it grow into a tree, if you keep the top cut off, it'll spread out into a pretty nice bush. People
Now,
don't know it's a tea tree.
did you plant that, or did it just find its way in the pot?
Oh no, I ordered it. I ordered it from a holistic, or at least they had holistic in their title, a holistic shop online, and they shipped it to me. They shipped the plant to me in a little cardboard box.
Nice, very nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So hopefully your sage is withstanding this bitter 53-degree
Ugh.
winter you guys are
I
experiencing,
I hope they survive.
complete with the mist and light wind. It sounds terrible.
Oh, freezing. I don't like it.
Not sure how you do it.
Well, it's every day is a struggle. It's just by the grace of God, one step at a time.
How's your week been?
My week has been good. My week's been good. I've been uh I've been I've been taking care of the kids, but personally I've been just on a brutal path like for the last year, I don't know. I guess technically for the last 41 years, I've been on a very brutal path of self-discovery and kind of self-help. And the last couple months, when we've talked about this on here. I mean, this is what we talk about. When I got a new therapist, she wanted to talk about all the things. She was doing a good job, but she wanted to talk about like military PTSD, law enforcement PTSD, my marriage, my relationship with my kids, and all this stuff. And having my life of constant trauma or whatever, I have been in therapy since like literally since I was about like 10 years old. Usually it was in those years, it was a church counselor that was acting very unqualified. He was just a former retired pastor. I
Yeah.
can say his name. He's passed away now, but I won't. But super unqualified and super not helpful advice in retrospect that he was giving me. But I know all the lingo of like how therapy works. So I had to tell her, I'm like, hey, I get all that. I don't want to talk about that. I'm here for two things: childhood trauma and anger management. That's what I'm here for. And so we've really focused the view on childhood trauma and anger management, which really is just all childhood trauma. So, so for the last, like I said, 2 or 3 months, we've been doing some very, very painful, but very, very real EMDR is the type of therapy I'm doing. Work, self work, and it's like it's digging deep. It's like I think a lot of people would when they go to therapy, they're like, oh, I don't want to minimize anything, but like, oh, I'm depressed, or oh, my boss yells at me and I don't know how to handle conflict, or oh, there's this one thing that happened. That's like surface level. I say for me, that was surface level, but I'm going down to the roots. I'm digging up that dark mud on the bottom. And something that I've learned in this process is that every time I think I'm doing good, like, hey, I've got that licked, or at least I've addressed that, it just opens the door for the next big monster.
Yeah.
And and so yeah, it's like I tell you, I call it the hero's journey. And it because you are like the hero's journey, there's 12 steps of the hero's journey, and I can't remember them all. But one of them is like realizing something changed. Like, well, first you're in your life, like in the Shire. Imagine Frodo in the Shire. Everything's peaceful, and then the call to action comes. Gandalf comes and says, "Hey, we got work to do." Then you say, "No, I don't want to do that, Gandalf. I'm good." Blah 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 blah. Like, I'm fine. Well, you eventually realize, no, there is work to do. No, there is a real need. So that's like the launching point of taking off into this journey. And for me, this journey has been in here. I'm not fighting monsters out there. I'm fighting monsters in here and in here. Well, head and heart for listeners. Um, that is where all the real monsters are. That's where the real demons are. I when people ask me how I've been doing, I've been lightly. It's like careful what you ask for whenever you ask
Yeah.
me how I'm doing. I've been lightly saying like, "Oh, just fighting demons, battling these demons, baby, fighting monsters every single day."
That's always hard to. It's hard when you're trying to live honestly,
Yeah.
which is what I'm trying to do, and I know that you are. It's hard to live honestly, but also not overshare.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
like because there are some people that genuinely like they just want to, hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah.
And that's
Probably
appropriate.
most people. You
It's
think most
appropriate for
people?
a lot of people. Yeah, I mean, because I mean the environment. You know, we see each other at Walmart. Like, well, how am I doing? What a
Hmm.
good question. Come with me over here to the grocery section.
You want to take us? Yeah, let's go over to the freezer section. I'm gonna open the door and we can have
I,
this conversation there.
yeah, I think I saw some couches around the way in the home section. Have a seat. But yeah, I sometimes, like I said, I'm trying to be honest, but
Yeah.
I'm also trying to deepen connections, and all that kind of stuff. But I just don't know who all I want to give the black stuff to. Like you said.
Oh, oh man, you should have seen me in Denver when I was fitting in Denver. I was around a couple younger kid. I call them younger kids. It's my brother-in-law Zach and his boyfriend. Their age group, which is just like 5 years younger than me, or about that. They're in their early 30s, early and mid 30s. Um, I was laying it on. I was like, "You boys want to learn about some inner work?" And like we were bar hopping. I wasn't drinking, so I was just drinking Diet Coke. But I'm not gonna say I was completely sober. And oh, I mean, I was smoking weed in Denver, and it was just the right. Like my heart was open. I felt like their heart was open, and I was like a baby Ram Dass walking up and down the streets of Denver. Like, you boys ever heard of the inner light? You know what that is? Let me see your light, brother. Show me.
Were they picking it up, or were they like, okay, old man?
Oh no, they were hip. There was a guy there, Cam, shout out, Max's brother. They're two buddies. They follow us on our socials. With, Cam has a similar story to mine, actually, except it went in a different path. Troubled childhood and brought in by a family or whatever. Um, Man, me and him were going deep with each other. We were like, dude, you want to talk about some trauma? And this is stuff you need to deal with now. And yeah, he was very receptive, and we were like preaching to each other. It was pretty good. So when I ask you how I'm doing, or if you ask me, just warning, I'm putting it out there.
You're gonna get it.
You're gonna get it, and I want to hear about it. Say, hey brother, how you doing? I'm gonna take a pause and lean in. Like, I'm ready. Tell me how you're doing. Because yeah, I mean, everything else is surface. At least it feels like with me. I've I feel like I've just gone too far and I've seen too much. I don't have, I mean, it's cool. I get it. If you want the light stuff, that's fine. I just don't have time for light, or for not L. I don't have time for superficial right
Yeah,
now. Like, hey, brother, I want to hear about the demons you're fighting. I want to learn something from you. Hopefully, I can give something to you, and let's fucking get through this.
yeah.
Because I truly believe on a bunch of different levels that we all are connected, and we all are like, if you tell me about your problems and the monsters you fought, I will take that and I will learn something from it. Obviously I'm not necessarily going to repeat your steps verbatim. Like, I might learn from that experience, like, oh, J Dub saw a stick on the curb. I'm going to make sure I avoid that curb. J Dub saw a pothole on the road. Good to know, J Dub. I'm going to avoid that road.
That's why I think mentors are so important.
They really are.
Because if you're on any kind of a difficult journey or path or process, why would you not talk to the person that just came back from that, or the
Yeah.
person that's been up and down that road, 3 or 4 times?
Yeah. I mean, we it's lessons learned, like hot wash from the military. Like when we started OIF and OEF, '03 happened was when I joined the Navy, but I guess 2001 when 9/11 happened and we went back to Afghanistan, the special forces operators and even all of the military, we were using Vietnam tactics. Like we were using jungle warfare because that was the latest, Vietnam, Grenada. You could say 91 Desert Storm, but that was just like a flash in the pan. The military was still using Vietnam tactics. They had to quickly learn, like real time, hey, these manuals aren't covering Fallujah. These manuals don't cover Baghdad. We need to adapt. And so I mean, it was happening after every operation, but just like in the big picture, Unit A would go to Iraq, get their butt kicked, and then overcome and handle it. And then when Unit B would come in to relieve them, they'd say, hey, all that Vietnam stuff is good, but this ain't Vietnam. You want to learn from me. Like I was just down the street. And then it quickly changed into there was like a month overlay in between those for at least for direct action units where they would spend a month going on missions together. And so
Yeah.
like Unit A was on operations with Unit B and saying, "Hey, this is how we're doing it." So, yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
exactly like
That's
you
super
said.
smart. Um, I had a, I was in training this past week for real estate training, but a lot of it was kind of centered around, the first half of it was kind of centered around mindfulness and um, just kind of uh, not so much manifestation, mindset, more
Yeah.
mindset. That's what it's about. And the instructor said something that I came home that night, and it was the weirdest thing, dude. I was brushing my teeth, and I had the realization, like, holy shit, I'm brushing like I'm brushing my teeth here, and that sounds dumb, but like I don't think I've ever in my entire life in the process of brushing my teeth considered that I was brushing teeth.
You've never done it
Not
mindfully.
I've never done it my entire life. It's always just been brush, 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 spit, brush, 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 spit. Rinse the toothbrush out. And like for the first time in my life, I was like, wow. Like, what if? Imagine if these teeth were taken, like they were just sitting on the counter, and your job was to brush those teeth. How would you do it? Like you would brush each tooth, and you would pay attention to how you're doing.
Each tooth.
What I guarantee you're not doing is you wouldn't just be like brushing it like this, like doing all kinds of things, and like you
You
would
leave the
actually
water on because you know it's gonna be so fast where you don't even need to turn the
don't
water
even.
off.
I don't need to take that effort,
Yeah.
and so I since then I've been kind of trying in the mornings and evenings when I brush my teeth, like to slow down and be physically, mentally present while I'm
Present.
brushing my teeth. But I was thinking of like that applies to a lot of things. It applies to brushing your hair or shaving. Like I don't have hair to brush, but imagine if you're brushing your hair.
Okay.
If it was anybody else's, you would probably like pay attention to what you're doing and
Start from the bottom. Yeah.
think about what you're doing instead of just brush, brush, brush. Thinking about going to the bank and running all these errands and stuff. And I thought about it with driving. Thought about it with having a conversation with somebody. But the one thing that really kind of stood out to me was doing something as simple as brushing my teeth and actually being present for it.
Hmm.
It's weird. Like I said, I've never considered it in my entire life.
That's actually a really good sign for you personally, because what that shows is something that's referred to as neuroplasticity. Um, and I don't have enough or the bandwidth to really go down neuroplasticity right now, but there's this really cool guy. He's an author, and his mind is blanking on me, but in a bunch of like TikTok clips and Instagram clips. It's like this late '90s video where this speaker is saying, "You want to do something that'll change your life? I got two steps. One, if you're right-handed in the morning, brush your teeth with your left hand and see how that goes. And second, whenever you get done, look yourself in the mirror in the eyes and point to yourself and 10 times say, I love you. 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 Man, that is tough.
Yeah, I'll bet. I'll
That
bet.
is, especially if you don't love yourself.
Right? Yeah, by
That
the
is,
fifth time, you're like, okay, 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 it's fine. It's fine. Shut
doing
up.
that just now caused me physical pain. Like
Yeah.
saying that. And I'm not looking in a mirror. Well, I guess I kind of am. But like just looking at yourself and saying, Clayton, I love you. I do love you. And eventually you're going to say, homie, I love you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I do think I'm making some progress, with that. And even just,
Oh, yeah, you are.
we've talked before about self talk, and I think I have been surprised to find that we all kind of have the same thing.
Yeah.
Maybe different verbiage, but like mine is usually like, dude, just shut the fuck up. Like, quit talking. Shut up. Especially after I've overshared. But
Do you hear my thoughts?
yeah, like when I have that conversation with people, everybody I talk to is like, oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think I've made progress in when those thoughts come up, like just being like, instead of talking to myself like I'm, fucking
Piece of
idiot.
shit. Yeah.
Yeah, like actually standing up for myself and say, no, you're not fucking stupid.
Yeah.
You just made a mistake, or you thought this, or you thought that, or you were trying to do, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's gotten to the point where, and this is probably a sign of being crazy, so I don't know. But it's gotten to the point where one thought will be like, dude, just shut the fuck up, you're a fucking idiot. And mid thought, the other thought will be, man, hold up,
Yep.
we're not talking that way.
Hell yeah.
We're not talking to my man's that way.
That's
Uh,
right.
which
Put
I
some
don't know.
respect on my name.
Don't know where it comes from. Don't know what it is. I assume that it's progress. It feels like progress.
That is 1,000% growth and healthy behavior.
Yeah, you heard it here first.
Yeah. J
J
Dubs.
Dubs getting healthy, getting right.
That's right. Everybody knows it. Everybody sees it. Everybody says that about you. Um, Very related to what you're saying, even though it's not going to seem that way at first. I have a thought experiment. Oh, wait. Welcome to Lawless Podcast. I've already said that. Make sure you like, heart, subscribe, share what you're doing. Write into us at podcastlawless@gmail.com for any questions, comments, concern, and sponsorship ads. Okay. I got a thought experiment for the Lawless family, and we're going to do this real time, me and you. But if you're walking your dog, walking a big fat crap Roscoe, or driving to work, or brushing your teeth, do it with your left hand and tell yourself you love you. But play along with this. What if aliens, and we all know they're here, we all know they're among us,
Do you think that there's anybody that doesn't believe in aliens right now,
fools.
other than just out of pure stubbornness or spite?
Yeah. I mean, they're just holding on to their dogma at this point.
Okay.
What if aliens were hovering above Earth and they picked up our cable news signals, right?
Okay.
Aliens are up there and they got HBO Max or they got YouTube TV. And they said, let's use this as a tool to see what these humans are all about before we go down and start probing them and abducting them. And so they would say, like, who are these people? Let's look at their history. Let's find some ancient human history on here. And they pulled up Game of Thrones.
Okay.
So they think these people are ultra violent, ultra drunks. They have dragons, kings and queens, and it's just constant fucking chaos. That's
Okay.
the human history.
Okay.
They say, how do you humans solve conflict? Well, then they tune into the UFC or any MMA or boxing or whatever and say, oh, thousands of people stand and cheer for blood, and these two people beat the crap out of each other. that's how they solve their problems. Or what if they tuned in and said, how does their law enforcement behave? Like, how does the normal Earth cop treat their people? I'm sure they're not going to use the vernacular cop because that comes from early 20th century. But they would turn on the TV and find these Minnesota ice riots or the LA ice riots or whatever, or would find, the Iranians cracking down on their protesters right now or whatever. That's how they would assume that's how all law enforcement behaves because that's what's given to them. What else? How do they drive? How do humans drive? They flip the channel and turn on NASCAR or the Indy 500. Oh, they drive at 200 miles an hour, bumping into each other, slamming each other into walls, and taking left-hand turns the whole time. All of those things, actually, on some level, there are true. Actually, that was funny. On some level, there's a truth to that because, like, that is in you, or at least that's in me. You
Sure.
know, we would call that the extreme. Maybe we would use that as performative or the shadow, if you will, some form of
Okay.
that. But is that reality? You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it wouldn't be reality for most people, but I've got a thought. Like, what if what if you were the one responsible for like planning the alien? Let's let's call it return,
Okay.
maybe invasion.
Or
We'll,
reveal that big alien veil.
well, what I've got in mind is that something, one of the alien people may have been responsible for scheduling the arrival or the reveal, right?
Hmm.
And let's say they looked down on us about 30 years ago, and they were like, just let's just give it a little more time. Let's let them get a little bit better,
Those
grow
eggs are
up.
still runny a little bit.
Yeah, like we'll just let it go for a little bit,
Let them cook.
and then they turn on the TV in 2026, and they're like, oh man, we waited too long. You gotta take a look at this. Uh,
Oh shit!
yeah, man, that's my
They're
bad.
about to nuke each other right now.
We should have done this about 30 years ago.
They're
Had
about to nuke
no
each other
idea.
right now.
Had no idea it was going to take that turn. Because there
Man,
probably could have been a time, thinking of like Leave It to Beaver or Andy Griffith.
maybe.
There probably was a time. I'm curious about this. I wonder if there was a time when TV was more reflective of reality.
Actually reflected reality.
Yeah, I wonder if Andy Griffith like did was that the common man? Do you think, or was that still um,
A
still
myth,
yeah, kind of
a
caricature
caricature.
of society?
Dang, you're smart. We got the same mind.
You're vibing.
I would say no. It has it has never been. What's portrayed, especially in media, especially in the 20th century, has never been a true reflection of reality. It's always been there's Superman. There's Batman. There's the millionaire who goes through tragedy and then becomes the superhero. There's Andy Griffith, the guy who does everything right, whistles, doesn't even carry a gun. Who is his partner?
Barney Fife.
Barney Fife. Barney Fife always has one bullet in his pocket that he takes out and rattles and puts it in his revolver. That was never true.
Yeah.
That was never true. Um, Probably, I mean, absolutely the same way today. What we're talking about and what we've been talking about since recording in progress is what the Buddhists call right view or perceiving reality on reality's terms. So, an example of this is to get personal and to overshare, which is what I do. This morning, I woke up, I mean, for a couple, or not for a bunch, but for a couple, really one or two personal reasons. I like as soon as I opened my eyes, my brain was telling me, you fucked up, and the worst possible thing is now going to happen. You fucked up because you're a piece of shit. Your whole life has been you reflecting as a piece of shit, and now these chickens have come home to roost. Now you're dealing with your bad thing. The worst possible thing that you thought was going to happen is about to happen.
Without going into what that thing was, did you have an idea, or was it like a general sense of shit's falling apart? And somebody asked, "Well, what?" Like everything. Like, did you have a specific thing?
Oh yeah, I had to shut myself in my bathroom and cry and ignore my family for about an hour this morning. And I had to pull out the tools in so like I said, I don't have it together. As soon as I think I have it together, the next monster reveals itself. But I had to shut myself in the bathroom this morning and breathe and do what what I used to call prayer, but I mean it's absolutely prayer, but I had to breathe and pray and meditate and tell myself this all stemmed from a company was supposed to give me a call back on whatever on Friday and they didn't. So I assumed, oh, they didn't. It was actually they were supposed to reply to an email or give me a call back, and they didn't do either one of those. I thought, oh, they found out you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And now, since you're a piece of shit, your family's going to suffer. You're going to lose this nice big house that you just bought. You're going to lose those cars. Your kids are going to realize how bigger of a piece of shit
Everybody's
you
gonna
are.
the company's gonna call a meeting. Like, hey,
Yeah,
Ashley, can you and the kids can you just come and just stop by sometime? We got to tell you how big of a piece of shit this dude is.
yeah. So the right view is obvious when it's not yourself.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, like I already know the answer to this, but like if I were to call you, which maybe I should have, but if I were to call you at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I know I can, if I were to call you at 8 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, my world's about to burn down, I'm a piece of shit, my family's gonna leave me, and I'm gonna lose everything because someone didn't reply to an email or give me a phone call back, for real, what would you tell me?
Well, I mean, I probably wouldn't have laughed.
You wouldn't
Uh,
laugh in my face. Okay,
no,
thank you.
I wouldn't have.
Or my ear.
The first thing I'd be like, oh, what's the email? Like, what's that about? And then you would tell me, and I would say, dude, this doesn't have any reflection on who you are or what you are or what kind of dad or husband or person or man or friend. And at the end, I'd say, and honestly, man, if they don't select you, if they don't respond back, that's their loss.
Yeah.
And I would say all of that completely from the heart,
Mm.
like without trying to make you feel better or without,
Yeah.
like
Would you
just
be
tell them the
saying,
truth.
yeah, yeah, you wouldn't be saying things that you think I want to hear. You would be telling me lovingly the truth
Yeah.
because you have separation from that. You have the life and experience to know how things actually work, or at least, like I said, in your life. So you could lovingly or friendly or whatever you want to use. I'd say lovingly, but that might be people, whatever. Fuck them. You would lovingly say exactly what you just said. Like, hey, you're not seeing things clearly. You know, you're concerned, you care, blah 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 blah, but you're too close to the flame, homie. Take a beat, take a step back, and let's look at this. When the aliens come, they would see like if when you were a cop, if the aliens thought that all law enforcement believed that or if the aliens believed that all law enforcement behaved like the worst possible thing we're seeing these ICE agents do in Minnesota and LA and everywhere, they would get to know you and realize, oh, this guy's not like that. And I would even say they could take a step back and see our old agency and say, this agency's not like that. This agency doesn't. Maybe there might be whatever, some people who have done stupid mistakes, but very broadly speaking, I don't think our old agency had any tendencies toward that. At least I didn't see. And maybe you could take a step back further and be like, do cops in Kansas behave like this? No, No, that's not most people's experience. Like I said, generalizations speaking. That's not most people's experience with law enforcement in Kansas. Well, how about the Midwest? How about the US? How about the world? Oh no, that's not how things go normally. You're seeing extreme behaviors, and you're seeing what things look like when the whole storm comes together, whatever. People have been training, like all they are is fighters, and they are in a paid promotion where all they do is fight. That's not how humans generally solve their problems. That's definitely not how healthy, developed, civilized humans solve their problems. Me and those aliens had a wrong view that with further education sheds light on it. Um, yeah,
I saw I saw a post the other day that said, uh, I think it was this guy made the meme. I don't know, but it was just a text box, and it said, "Be gentle on yourself for not understanding what you could only understand from experience.
yeah,
For not understanding then what you could only understand through experience."
yeah,
I thought that was pretty insightful to what you're talking about.
yeah.
Like you've got until you know the truth, you really can't have a right view.
Hey, pause. Um, are you doing something there's a lot of like feedback on your microphone, like you're bumping your microphone or something. There's a lot of,
Is it like this?
yeah,
Dang, that is
that
so
that's
so
coming through.
sensitive. Okay.
It's coming through. Unpause. Um, yeah, yeah, you have to get some space, and really oftentimes it takes another person to point that out to you because the other person has separation. If you can learn, if and there's other parts to this, but this is a biggie. If you can learn to breathe, just focus on your breath for 30 seconds. Don't think about everything, just in, out, in, out, and just do that. That is a Control Alt Delete reset on your laptop. When you've had your laptop open for too long and too many tabs are open and there's been too many programs running, your computer's going to start running like shit. But your computer's just fine. Your computer's probably behaving the way it's supposed to. It's just running into all these blocked signals. If you can Control Alt Delete and restart that son of a gun, I bet you it'll be closer to how you expect it to be, or at least anyway, it's going to show you how it truly is. That glitching computer is not your real computer. The Control Alt Delete restarted computer, that's your real computer.
You could probably use the technique of kind of like with actually brushing your teeth.
Yes.
You could use the same technique of instead of and breathing is probably even a better it's probably even a better example because you have to do it without thinking. You
Talk
can't
about one thing you do without thinking. Yeah.
yeah, you really can't you wouldn't be able to survive if you had to focus on breathing uh, in order to do it. But that's probably a good place to start focusing on, and I think that's probably the foundation of meditation, right? Like that's probably where you could start.
Man, you could even say life itself, like the key to life itself, is in the breath. I'm not, and it is obviously to keep your heart pumping and to bring oxygen into your blood, but also to take a beat, to calm yourself down, to de escalate. Life is in the breath.
I've heard it said before that God is in the breath.
Man, it's almost like God is there, huh?
Well, and Rob Bell had that. I think it was Rob Bell had the
Yeah.
thing about the what was it?
Yo, hey,
Ex-
Vod, hey,
yeah, the exhale being the sound of
God.
Yahweh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's
There,
something to that. I think a lot of cultures have, if not taught that expressly, I think that they've hinted around to that.
Yeah, it sounds like that's a universal truth. That's something that the universe has put into us. Man, the I mean, this is true on so many levels, but the real teacher is the pain, because the pain, you're either going to pass or fail this test, and it's always a pass test actually, because you just keep on taking it till you pass it. But the only way to pass that test is to address the things that you don't know and to then learn those things. So when you say, and I said this for 30 years, I thought I didn't know math. I'm just not a math guy. Like it's actually, I called myself retarded. I, that's the self-talk I used, but, and still use, but I called myself retarded and said, oh, I'm just not a math guy. My brain doesn't comprehend math. I had done 12 years in the Navy and got out and went to Wichita State and tested for, like to see where you're placed at in Wichita State. And I had to go to remedial 2 algebra to learn that I was never taught the order of operations.
Mm.
In high school, my teacher taught, or maybe she did because most people pass, but she didn't teach it in a way that got into my head. PEMDAS, parentheses, expletive, whatever, the order of operations for algebra. I did it always left to right, top to bottom. And
Yeah,
it was a big red X on every single thing. And I would really concentrate. I'd really try hard. I'm like, okay, Clayton, stop this. You
you
know
know
how
this
to
one.
do this.
Yeah,
Do it. Fucking buckle down. Left to right, top to bottom. Ma'am, I know I did this right. Red X.
yeah.
And so eventually I just stopped paying attention. I just stopped paying attention. And how I passed algebra, how I passed high school is I copied off the pretty girls in class. They let me copy their work. And so that's how I got through. That also reinforced some other behavioral patterns that I learned in life. But it wasn't until I was 30 that I realized, oh, Clayton, you didn't know.
Hmm.
It's okay. You're not retarded. You're actually pretty smart. You're smart as a whip. Actually, once you learn algebra, I can do it. I can do
Yeah,
algebra.
because you know how to do the stuff. You were just never
Exactly.
told the order to do it in.
Exactly. Man, you could preach on that, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
could have.
That's a game changer. Which thinking back to like you'd said, one of your struggles is anger management. Boy,
Hmm.
when you realize, and this is true for most things that we struggle with, and most things that individually that we struggle with. When you realize that it's not anger necessarily, it may be fear, it may be hurt, it may be who knows what it is. Once you kind of instead of just looking at the red X, well, I failed that one, I failed that one, I must be a piece of shit, it must be whatever.
Hmm.
Realizing no, you just got the order of operations wrong.
Yeah.
Like you're just this is and I think that's part of the new self talk that I'm trying to work on is no, you're not a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
You just thought this or you were told that. Like you're working off the information you were given.
What if you were told that everything works out in order with God's plan? So if you don't have it, then God just must not have it in the cards for you. If you don't have algebra, then son, you
No,
God
you missed that day.
God gave you a different kind of brain, and your brain just doesn't know how to comprehend algebra. And they'd say it in all the loving Sunday school ways, like, "Oh, this is just God's will. Why is there pain and suffering in the world? Unfortunately," or they blame it on sin. That's another one. It's somebody else's fault. It's because you looked at that website you shouldn't look at. It's because your dad drank too much and said a lot of cuss words. You have generational sins. There's actually no hope for you besides surrendering yourself to whatever. Um, which that's the thing, man, too. When I'm so like these views that I'm talking about have lately been described to me in the lens of Buddhism and like the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, and now some Joseph Campbell mixed in there. But this is in Christianity too. It's just not in Western evangelical independent fundamentalist Baptist or Pentecostal.
Yeah, but what's funny is this came before that. And so
Yes.
when you look at it, at least when I look at it from the Christian perspective, I'm looking at it from, well, the Christian perspective, the evangelical perspective, we'll call it, is just trying to explain this other thing.
Yeah.
This other thing existed first, and here's this particular flavor of how to explain it.
That's what religion is, or at least the true essence of all religion is explaining the world and
Yeah,
explaining to you how the world, the universe, how the conscious loving and creator or creation force of the universe is manifesting itself into you, and explain how the universe works. What happens when I die? Why do bad things happen? All the essence of all religions, I believe, is pointing toward the truth. It just comes, the problem comes whenever there's not right view and right understanding. So we make up these rules and these weird explanations that cover what we think we know, but we don't actually comprehend.
right.
So, yes, God is in the breath. You know what I mean? Does that mean it doesn't mean what they taught you in Sunday school. At least not in me right now. Not in my universe right now. It doesn't mean what they taught you in Sunday school. Like to live as Christ, to die as gain. I don't feel right now that means that I have to say the special prayer that isn't in the New Testament and imagine God coming into my heart and for me to pursue him and for me to set my sights, my very narrow sights on the new King James version or the original King James version or the 1865 King James version and what this man is telling me that King James version explains.
Mm-hmm.
To live as Christ, to die as gain. Actually, to live as Christ would be to live as Christ, to be completely dedicated to God and to saving others, and to be willing to give up your life to bring other people to God. At least that's living as Christ. And if you die in that pursuit, even better. Like, man, you are so committed. And that's just one explanation. I know there's a lot of different things that means. I don't think that means you have to say a special prayer and you have to go to church every Sunday and you have to dress a certain way. You have to avoid Kool-Aid and you can't have to avoid bowling and you can't blah 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 blah. You're missing the point, homie. That's not what live as Christ and die as get. At least not if you want to fight real monsters. Not if you want to fight real demons. If you want to go to church and, pay your tithe and feel right about that while everything else is just completely ignored, then sure. But if you want to go on the real hero's journey, there is a blueprint in that book and in all of that book, in all of the face in the world. Like when you get down to it, there is a path in there. It and it's not say the special or say the special spell or a special prayer. It's not say these special words. It's not go to this special building. And if you don't do that, you're going to go to hell. That's not the point. That's not what that is.
Yeah, I think that the problem may arise when you like you said where religion is used to try to explain why things are the way they are and why we are the way we are, and if it makes sense to you, if it explains it to you enough to give you a framework to operate inside, that's great. But I think what happens, the problem is that, well, it made sense to me, so it better make sense to you. And if it doesn't make sense to you, then it's because you're in sin or because you
Yeah.
just don't love Jesus enough or
You were
whatever.
never really saved in the
You
first
never,
place.
yeah,
Joseph Campbell talks about in his book that I shared with you and T this morning, the audio version, and it got to me so hardcore. Like obviously I came out of a tailspin this morning, but I went down the when I came out of that tailspin and I was talking to you, I actually texted you afterwards and you're like, "Hey, are we good to record today?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm good. Just got done fighting some demons, homie." And you're like, "Are you good?" I'm like, "Yeah." it really is the hero's journey. I've always heard that the hero's journey in my mind, and I've always thought, at least on a on some level, it made sense to me. Like, yeah, that's the hero's journey, fighting the real monsters, doing this or that. Well, I what the hero's journey talks about, which is an idea from that hero with a thousand faces, and what um, Joseph Campbell talks about, is that all religions are saying the same thing, and it's saying this, that the answers are inside of you, but you're not gonna get those answers until you face those demons. And you're not going to face the demons if you never want to step off the front porch. If you never want to leave the Shire like Frodo, you might have a fine life. You might have a happy, surface level. You get yourself a wife, get yourself some kids, work till you're 60, pay your taxes, drink beer on the weekends, and die. That's a great life. That's I'm not shaming that at all. But if you want to deal with anger, you want to deal with depression, and you want to deal with why these things keep coming up, you're going to have to start going in here, homie. And in here is not for the faint of heart. It's not, it takes real work. And I mean, we're almost like a broken record, but the answers are inside of you. All of these paths point to that. The kingdom of heaven is within you.
Why do you think it's so hard to look within? And why is it so hard to acknowledge that even the temptations and Satan and those demons are also within? Why is it so hard to admit that, do you think?
Well, that last part flies in the face of theology. Like I know some fundamentalist evangelicals that would say what we're saying right now is demonic. Like the words we're using right now is demonic and it's not the truth. So it flies in the face of the theology that's baked into a lot of those people. But also it's scary. It's so scary that your mind might even reject it at first. Your mind might say, don't open that closet. There's monsters in that closet.
Well, there's a weird. It's odd because we started talking about, maybe we didn't start the conversation, but somewhere in the beginning of this conversation we talked about loving yourself,
Yeah.
and we talked about having a right view. And you would think that if I said, well, Satan is me,
Yeah.
you would think that that would make you turn further from yourself or
Yeah.
make you think less of yourself. But there's something liberating in recognizing that, oh, the reason I'm always tempted with just the right temptation is because it's coming from inside,
Yeah.
because it's an inside job. And there is freedom in that. There's liberation in recognizing that it's no outside force. It's
Well,
just you.
that's where real salvation is. That's where your hope is. Like the only way, the obstacle is the way, is how Ryan Holiday, the author and podcaster and kind of figure, he boils down Stoic wisdom, which I love, and I think gets here too, just at a slightly different angle. He boils down Stoicism to say the obstacle is the way. And I think that was like his second or third book, is the obstacle is the way. And the only way, in my experience and in I guess I can't speak for anyone, but at least me and the people that I know and love, the only way to deal with your problems is to fucking deal with it, is to actually deal with it. And my anger, because the same way I'm angry at my kids is the same reason I'm angry at the lady in the red light, is the same way that I react to the news that's on the TV, is the same way that I treated suspect, or not really, but cut that out, Pixel. But is the same way that my anger wasn't coming from the outside. I realized the anger was coming from with me and how I thought the world should behave. The world is supposed to behave the way that I think, and when it's not behaving the way that I think, I get angry and I want to fix the world. Well, is it the world's problem or is it how I see the world? Um, we were getting there. and it was right on the tip of my tongue. But this morning, one of the things that I used to snap out of that tailspin is I did my breathing and I went to my mental palace, which we need to talk about sometime. But I went to my mental palace and I looked at myself like I presented myself there. And I said, "Hey, you've had some time to think about this. Is what you see right? Is what you see true?" And actually, I loved myself. And I even saw myself as Cash, or because Cash looks just like me. He's my
Yeah.
twin. I saw myself as a little blonde-haired boy. His face is dirty because he was outside playing in the dirt, and he likes to say fart real loud to get a reaction. I saw myself as him, and I said, "Hey, buddy, you just had a rough time, huh? That wasn't fun. I love you. I'm sorry that happened. Let me explain this to you. That person, the person who was supposed to reply to your email, probably had other things going on, and they have their own situation going on, and it had nothing to do with you. I gave myself a version of the talk that you gave me, lovingly, as a friend, with some separation. I gave myself the right view. That was in me. I had to unlock some things by learning and blah, 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 blah. But even though I could have called out for help, the help, if I would have called you and you would have said that to me, I would still have to understand that in order for it to take effect.
Yeah.
And that,
You still have to believe it.
yeah,
And that that can be really hard sometimes when sometimes, and I don't really understand this, but I know that it's true. Sometimes I think that we stay there on purpose. Like
yeah,
we could leave that place, but there's something. And for me, I think it's just comfort and familiarity, or at least familiarity and discomfort. Like I know that when I'm in a tailspin, that my thoughts aren't true,
yeah,
and you could tell me,
yeah,
the roles could be reversed,
yeah,
but I still got to accept it.
yeah,
And sometimes we may just not be ready to believe it for whatever reason. And
yeah.
I don't know where that comes from. That may just come from the familiarity. Like, well, I'm familiar with this room, so I'm going to stay here.
That is your karma meeting your dharma. So your karma is your actions and the consequences of your actions. Like there are natural consequences for actions. That's karma. Your dharma is the life that you're living in right now, at least your view and how the universe, how you're perceiving the universe right now, like what's going on. That's your dharma. Both of those things affect each other. If your actions and view and attachment and craving, your pursuit of pleasure and rejection of pain is leading you down a path, then you're going to be down that path and it's going to be presented to you the way that you perceive it. If you're all of, yeah, and that is reactionary, that is automatic, that is you being of the world, right? That is you being a player in the world and you just being in autopilot. Whenever you get that, and for me, that leads to a place where of suffering. My my view, my pursuit of pleasure and my rejection of pain led to a state of chaos and panic, but it led to pain. Only with the Four Noble Truths, we can call it this, or only with the you seeing yourself the way that God sees you, only with you accepting love and light, was there a possibility for me to see reality on reality's terms, even for a glimpse? I don't know. I kind of lost the train there, but I was going to go down the Four Noble Truths.
Yeah.
But what do you think?
Well, I wonder. I think that you're right, and I think that a right view on just about anything. I think you could say everything. Having a right view on anything, I think, could solve most of our problems.
It's the first step in the path.
But and this is this is really, I think it's true of everything from politics to economics to
Yeah.
daily life. So much of what we're deciding and feeling and thinking is not based on the wrong, it's not based on the right view. And it's not because, I don't know that it's because we have a bent toward thinking wrongly or thinking,
I
any
think,
kind of negative. It's just bad information.
yeah.
We're operating on bad information.
Well, and you're just reacting. You're just reacting to what you see. You're just reacting on emotion. This isn't right. The world is not supposed to behave this way. She ran that red light. Are you kidding me? Let me run this red light so I can tailgate her and let her know how much of a problem I think she is.
Yeah.
The world, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. And man, this kind of bleeds into current events. We talked last week. We talked last week about the ice debacle, this catastrophe. I'm not sure what you
Do
would call
do
it.
do 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 do.
Uh, we talked about that, and first off, I had a completely wrong perspective. This is a good example. I had a wrong view of that, of what happened in that shooting.
Mm.
I made
Which
some
is very
assumptions.
complicated. Yeah.
I made some assumptions, and I think a lot of people made assumptions that the fact that
I
because
think everybody's making assumptions.
ice stopped a vehicle, well, you assume that the person they stopped was Hispanic, and so that immediately gives you a perspective,
You're
right?
immediately in a camp. Before you get any other information, you're in a
Yep.
camp and you're coming to
And
it from that camp.
even I had expressed this to you, like, of all people, I should have known that there's more to the story.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not speaking on the story itself. I'm just saying that I had bad information. I was given
You
partial
didn't
information.
have
I
enough
filled
information,
I
definitely.
I filled in the blanks, and we went from there. You know,
Yeah.
but then you start to run into you do, I think, run into issues with, sometimes we're given wrong information on purpose.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're just manipulated.
Hmm.
And I saw a video of a guy protesting. He's protesting ICE. I don't know where it was, and he's got this big banner, and it says something about "fuck ICE" or something like that. And this guy, the interviewer, comes up and he's asking him about it. And it wasn't like it wasn't one of those. Charlie Kirk used to do this, where like they would try to have arguments with people and try to win, whatever. I don't think that's what this was about. He just asked him, "What are you here for?" And the guy's going on and on about how dumb ICE is and how they're just Nazis and how they just love their uniforms, they love their boots, they just love marching around here, but they don't have the training. But and I'm thinking to myself, first off, you don't have
Hmm.
any idea what kind of training they've got.
None.
Second off, anything, like, nothing you just said is at all based on it. Like, there's no value in it. The
Can any
fact
of
that they
that be
love their
proven?
the fact that they love their uniforms, like, what are you even talking about?
What?
But because we've been given a view, and it's so strange to me, so strange to me to see people comment on ICE. ICE equals Nazis. ICE equals fascism. But do you know what they do? Like, do you
Yeah.
know the function of ICE? And I get the emotions around who should be deported, who shouldn't. I get that. I agree that a lot of the people that are being deported should not have been, or at least, again, I don't know, because I've just got the view that I've been,
Yeah.
that they're telling me. But uh, I don't know. I think that so much of the hot buttons and the problems are based on a wrong view, wrong perspective.
Yeah. And the only way for you to come to that conclusion was to be presented with more information. To be presented with more information And I would say the real important part of this is to admit that you might not know everything and that there's more to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, that's probably the answer for just about everything, isn't it? That I might not know all about this. I might not have every perspective.
welcome to Lawless, folks. We deal with the big stuff here.
That's
You're
right.
welcome. You're welcome.
But speaking of ice and our current um, debacle, what's up with? Uh, I saw something. I think you said something about the Supreme Court said that it's cool for law enforcement to demand papers.
So I posted about this on my socials without getting enough information. But I saw one post, I saw a news article actually from my news app about I'll pull it up and exactly so I won't quote it. It's from People magazine, the article was, but it was Christy Nome, and I don't want to misquote the fine lady.
And she is the director of Homeland Security.
Yeah, she's the director of the Department of Homeland Security. Christy Nome says Americans should be prepared to prove their citizenship as ICE ramps up raids. Um, I did read the article, and I there was even a video on the article of like a nice interaction with a lady, and they said, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" She said, "Yes, I am." They said, "I need your identification." She said, "I'm an American citizen. I don't have to provide information. I don't have to provide identification." They said, "If you don't provide your identification, you're going to be detained."
Now, so tell me the first part again. What were the circumstances why they were having this contact?
I just dropped into this video that I don't know. I don't know is the answer. The video starts with a lady talking to ICE, and there's a bunch of ICE agents around this lady. You can tell she's starting to panic, like she's getting shallow breathing. She's looking around for an exit. She's starting to get hyper, and they say, I don't know if they said, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" But they said, "I need to see your identification." She said, "I didn't do anything wrong." They said, "I need to see your identification. Are you going to identify yourself?" She said, "I didn't do anything wrong." They said, "If you don't provide identification, you're going to be detained." She was like, "What did I do?" And they said, "You need to provide identification." They kept going back to that. You need to provide identification. They didn't tell her what she did. They didn't.
Okay.
And it ended with her wrestling and getting in handcuffs and getting stuffed in the back of a patrol car or a patrol SUV, unmarked SUV.
Okay. This is a great example, I
Yeah.
think, of a situation that from if you just see it from the news,
Yeah.
you're going to have a perspective, and you're going to say "fuck ICE."
I did.
You're going to say it's Nazis, fascists,
Gestapo,
Gestapo, right?
show me your papers.
But there's another piece to that, and you and I we've had those conversations.
Yeah, we should have.
We've probably done the same thing, a little bit different scenario.
Yeah.
But let's say that and it may be something minor. Let's say that you're working the highway, or you're working city interdiction. You're doing you're just being a cop,
Uh-huh.
and somebody they change lanes, they don't signal 100 feet. You stop them, and they say, "I don't have to give you my ID," and they say, "I didn't do anything wrong." And let's say somebody's recording this interaction, and
Hmm.
here's start the cameras here.
Hmm.
Like, that's a different scenario.
That sure is.
It's a different scenario, and in that situation, you are obligated. You're required to identify yourself,
That's right.
and if you don't identify yourself,
You are impeding an investigation.
you you could probably, and you probably will go to jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You're
and if you
absolutely going to be detained.
and if you fight while you're and we've talked about this, if you fight while you're being detained, you're going to get hurt, because this is the thing that I just don't think that people are comfortable with, is that an arrest is necessarily going to become violent.
Yeah.
It's going to reach the level of violence, hopefully the minimum amount of force necessary, but up to and including death. And
to
I
affect that arrest.
and I I don't know that it's the right way to do things. I think that we need an overhaul, but that's what we've got.
Yeah, you have to meet reality on reality's terms. In 2026, like it or not, and we'll keep talking about what Chrissy Nome said. And the Supreme Court is actually they have a decision from September 8th of last year that I want to address.
But but are they wrong? Like
Well, that's a different question. Well, or who wrong? I'm sorry.
the Supreme Court, when they say that no,
Oh,
ICE had that law enforcement had every duty to demand identification. I think that maybe part of the problem is that I wonder if people don't recognize that ICE is a law enforcement agency.
that's right. That's another thing. I've heard people say wrongly that ICE only has authority over immigrants and only has authority over border crossings. That's not true.
It's not true.
They're federal law enforcement officers.
It's the equivalent of a
That's right.
highway patrol trooper stopping somebody in the middle of town. But they have authority in the state. Like
That's right.
that's their state law enforcement officers.
Yeah. So, like, should they or shouldn't they have that authority? That's a different question. The fact is, right now, and certainly in their view, and this is being challenged in court, but in their view, they believe they do have the authority to say, show me your identification. If not, you're going to go to jail. There's an example of this that happened at the farm raids that happened in Southern California and San Diego and all the way up to LA and maybe all over. But there were farms being just swarmed by ICE agents, and everyone was immediately placed in the handcuffs, and everyone was immediately detained, and everyone had to show identification, show a form that showed that they were citizens or not. Um, Based on my training, at least how I understood our training, I would say that doesn't rise to the level of reasonable suspicion in Terry versus Ohio.
So that's almost exact, very similar scenario had happened before, and we were told that the equivalent would be you show up at a party, an
Hmm.
underage drinking party. Just because there's a bunch of people there and some of them are drinking underage doesn't mean you can put everybody at the party in handcuffs,
No,
because you've still got to have reasonable suspicion
you have to have reasonable suspicion
of that specific person.
of that specific crime, right?
uh,
Or is it of a crime?
of a crime.
That's right.
Reasonable suspicion that they have or are about to commit a crime.
But you should be able to articulate that crime.
You got to. And so I think that, and boy, we see this happen all the time too. In that video you're talking about, what did I do? Put you in handcuffs and I'll tell you later. What did I do? Get in these handcuffs. What did I do? And it's this thing where
Fights on.
the fight's on, but you've also got, sometimes you might have an officer who maybe has all kinds of things going on. Maybe they don't know.
Oh,
Maybe they don't know why you're going into handcuffs, but this person told me to do it. Or there's five of us here and we're all saying it. So I don't know, but the others four, they said that you should be arrested. So, or somebody that just they don't have confidence. They don't have, they don't.
you're acting on good faith. That officer, they'd say they're acting on good faith. It'd be like if you told me, and this does happen every single day, multiple times all around the United States. It'd be like if you say, hey, there's Mark. I know Mark has a warrant. Go stop Mark. You
Yep.
run up. Hey, Mark, turn around. What? I'm not Mark. Yeah, nice story. Turn around. Mark takes off running. Well, now you're gonna arrest Mark. Whatever. You can legally detain and I guess even arrest someone without if you don't have enough information just because someone else told you that there's probable cause for that person's arrest. Maybe it's a warrant, maybe they just saw him do something. That happens every single day, and that is a normal function in law enforcement
Yeah.
in the United States.
How many times, or maybe I should, did your ego ever get involved
Every
when
time.
when you're telling somebody to do something and they don't do it right away? They challenge you. Your ego, I think a lot of times, cops, our egos get inflamed, and we're like,
You don't
no,
see this badge?
you're gonna get these handcuffs because I told you to.
That's right.
I don't have to tell you shit. Turn
There's
around.
one person in charge here.
Yeah, and it ain't you.
That's right.
And so I can very easily see how even maybe they were justified. The video you're talking about, maybe they were justified,
I don't know.
but because for whatever the reason, they lost. They lost their vision, whatever, and man, that shit can go south really quick.
So I did just a tad bit of research before when I was setting up today, and I asked Chet. I said I want some more information and clear information on the director of HSI saying American citizens need to be prepared to show proof of citizenship and how that goes against my understanding of the Fourth Amendment in Terry versus Ohio. And Chet gave me some articles. Um, anyway, it basically said that that Terry versus Ohio does require reasonable suspicion to identify. In 2004, there was a case, Hybel versus the Sixth Judicial District. Um, the court upheld a law requiring a suspect to state their name during a valid Terry stop, not demanding proof of citizenship, but that the person was required to identify themselves. That's what the Supreme
That's
Court.
I think that's an important piece.
Yeah,
So Terry doesn't require you to show citizenship.
right.
It I don't know that it necessarily requires you to identify yourself. Criminal investigation does. Um,
My understanding of Terry is it does require you to identify yourself.
I know that it allows law enforcement to stop you and to temporarily seize you.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't know. I'm not sure if it does or not, but I think the
Well, the Supreme Court said that it did in that 2004 decision that it does that based on Terry that identifying yourself is acceptable
but
for
that's
law enforcement.
but that's identifying yourself. That's not proof of citizenship.
Right,
And I think
right.
that's an
Because
important thing to remember
isn't that a
too.
changing definition of what a citizen is? That's almost objective. Like what if my family's been here for hundreds of years, maybe even thousands of years before Europeans showed up?
I mean, I that's a good question. To be honest, I'm not sure. And it could probably be easily found. I'm not sure what is required to be a citizen, but I can tell you, I've never applied for it.
Right.
I just assume I assume that I've got it. But yeah,
Excuse me. Well, there's another court decision, Vasquez Perdomo versus Nome. And Vasquez Perdomo is a high profile constitutional challenge to immigration enforcement practices in the Los Angeles region brought on Pedro Vasquez Perdomo and others. The plaintiffs argued ICE were carrying out widespread raids and roving patrols and detained people without reasonable suspicion, largely based on race, ethnicity, and language, location, and type of employment. So going to a construction site and scooping everyone up, or going to a farm and scooping everyone up. A federal district court issued a temporary order blocking DHS from conducting this stop and requiring reasonable suspicion before detaining individuals. A
this
federal
is present day, or this was '04.
No, this happened in 2025.
Okay.
Maybe the roundups happened in 2025 and it was challenged in 2025 and a federal judge issued the temporary order blocking DHS from and blocking DHS from conducting such stops and requiring reasonable suspicion before detaining individuals. So he basically backed up my understanding of Terry versus Ohio, that there has to be reasonable suspicion before there's a detainment, right?
Yeah.
That's what the federal judge said. Well, it was challenged and went to the Supreme Court, and on September 8th, 2025, in a 6-3 panel, so not unanimous, three three Supreme Court justices dissented on this, um, granted the federal government's emergency request for a stay of the district court's injunction. It means the court paused the order that barred DHS from requiring reasonable suspicion for detainment. The six members of the Supreme Court justice said that that DHS and ICE was okay with detaining people without reasonable suspicion. Um, they didn't do this with a full briefing. They didn't do it with an oral argument or even a written majority opinion, which is often referred to as a shadow docket. So they did this kind of, at least the what that implies there is that they kind of did it without explaining why and without even showing why. They just said, yeah, ICE is good to do what they're doing.
Does that mean, and this may very well be the case, does that mean that if you are, I look at ICE and TSA,
Hell yeah.
I look at ICE and TSA as serving similar functions. In fact, TSA might be part of Homeland Security.
They are.
Okay. So, and this is a little bit different because I think you would maybe have to be in an airport. But if you're in an airport, can TSA just walk up and say, "Hey, let me see this bag"?
Yeah, they can.
But that would be only because you're.
I think, but I even then, I know this because I was in the hiring process and I interviewed with a bunch of agents and like we ran through a bunch of scenarios. They still like if you see someone walking by a border, this is one of the scenarios. If you see someone walking by a border, there's no house around, there's no town around, there's no road. He's dirty, he has a backpack on. Does that mean you can just run up there and stop him? And actually, the answer was maybe yes, maybe no. It depends on how that officer was able to explain. Because that officer, that agent, even then, and I know this from the agents that were on my panel, has to have reasonable suspicion. At least you have to be able to articulate that reasonable suspicion.
Man, and it gets really tricky there to admit that different people. First off, reasonable is
Yeah,
kind of it's a sliding scale.
that's what the Supreme Court said.
Yeah, but also different people are going to have different experiences that are
That's
going to
right.
guide the reasonable standard. So, let's say that you and I go down there to the border and we see this guy walking and we say he's just out for a walk or he's just whatever. Or maybe we say, yeah, he's probably going to break the law, but we don't quite have enough. Okay, that's based on my knowledge.
Hmm.
Let's say that you work the border and you've got specific information about and this happens every day. This happened in our jobs. We use
Yeah.
this. We have specific information that let's say a coyote that they may wear clothing affiliated with this brand
Uh-huh.
and they may whatever it is,
I
this
remember.
this and this. Well,
Yeah.
okay, well now it's a different story.
Yeah.
And now you're acting based on the information that you've got, and you've
Actual
got
information.
reasonable suspicion that a crime has or is about to be committed.
A reasonable person with your same training and with your
Yeah.
same experience, and everyone's training and experience is different, especially the experience part.
And then, and this is the crazy part about our system. Let's say that this scenario happened. You had all of the reasonable suspicion in the world. You are justified. Okay.
Hmm.
But then you write a shitty report.
Oh.
And even though you knew these things
Uh-huh.
and you were justified, you didn't put it in your report. So
Oh, man.
now we're going to look at it from this view. And, to me, it kind of highlights, I think, the fact that our system I mean, you can't have a perfect system.
Right.
It's based on humans and human perception and, human actions and attitudes and thoughts and all kinds of stuff. There's no way that it can be perfect. But I think it really shines light on the fact that our system, I don't think, is designed for justice. I think our system is designed for stability as much as
Hmm.
possible, and just to keep itself afloat, to keep us from to keep the I don't know, to keep the country from imploding,
Keep
but
the wheels moving.
it seems to maybe not be working.
Yeah, it doesn't. Um, and there is a temptation, and I think we're seeing this now, and I'm saying this without judgment because I fall into this. I posted that article. Um, there's a temptation to just dwell on everything wrong. There's a temptation to just see the worst possible action and to blow that up and to make it this huge monster that yeah. And okay, let's acknowledge that there is pain, that there is injustice in the world, and there's all this stuff going on. Eventually, you have to start living your life anyway. You're gonna have to live your life. So maybe you don't have to use this word if you're not ready for it, or maybe it doesn't even 100% comply here or fit in here. But it's just in my head of like, when does forgiveness come into the equation? Is there ever, because what I've seen with everything that we've talked about, like I think since the very beginning, we've been talking about the same thing. It's seeing something in the world that you don't think is right, and so you react to what you don't think is right, and it's in this big extreme way. Well, that is necessarily going to cause conflict and strife. Is there ever a point? How about this? How about you got hurt by someone when you were real young? You got hurt by the church, or you got hurt by a family member or a friend or something like that. And you've gone decades of living in pain and anguish with that pain and suffering, and your whole worldview and your whole life has been formed, at least with a big part of that pain and suffering in it. And eventually, you come to a point where you can actually work on it, you can make some progress, and you can even start to build on yourself. Is there ever a point where you need to forgive that person that did those wrong things? And if there is, what does that look like?
Well, this is one of those things that is so much easier when you've got that distance.
Yeah.
It's really really easy for me to tell you, oh
Hmm.
yeah, you're gonna have to forgive that person.
Hmm.
Like you're gonna, if you want this to be healed, you're gonna have to forgive them. It's a
That's right.
lot easier telling somebody else than yourself. But one of the things I am telling myself, I've got a little marker board, like a little grease board or whatever, that I keep on a shelf. That right now I've got written, I release all attachments.
Hmm.
And I think that this is something that I'm actively working on, is that when somebody or something comes to mind, something offensive,
Hmm.
I'm intentionally releasing that.
Hmm.
For like the and it's not a
But
one
what do you
time deal.
say? Do you say I release that?
Uh, I don't know that I say specific things. I In my mind I forgive them.
Hmm.
Like I
Okay.
forgive him of this again. But really, for me, the foundational piece has been releasing the attachment. And then once I no longer feel attached to the outcome, or that I deserve a certain kind of treatment or a certain level of respect or whatever it is, once I release that feeling that's mine and that I deserve it, the forgiveness kind of comes. I don't know that it's. I think maybe sometimes it's more by default. Like it's less that I intentionally forgive this person, as much as, oh well, that's not an offense anymore,
Yeah.
because I no longer have to be the man. I no longer expect or need to have this level of respect, because I've released that attachment. I'm not a,
I think another way of saying forgiveness or to thinking about forgiveness is letting it go. I have marked on my board, let go of the shoulds that no longer serve you. So this person should have done this. This group should have said that. They shouldn't have done this. I can wrestle with whether that's true or not, or whether that's right or not. But I mean, in order to get past it, you are gonna have to let go of that should that is no longer helping you out. In fact, it might be hurting you. So another way of saying I forgive you, Justin, is saying I'm letting go of that hurt that you did, and I'm just not holding on to it anymore. You can take it, or we can both just let it go into the universe. Either way, we're letting go. I'm letting go of this should that is not serving me.
That's probably a that's probably a better example of forgiveness than even saying I forgive you.
Because you're
Like
not
just
saying it's right.
yeah,
You're
you're
not
just
saying they're okay.
you're just letting go of the hurt.
Yeah.
And so to answer your question, I think that I think that it almost has to be maybe not right away, but I think that the time that you have to do it is when it comes up.
Yeah. Woo.
Um,
That would be the healthiest way. That I mean, you'd be Gandhi, you'd be Jesus.
do you think that I wonder if it's possible to I wonder if it's even possible to heal and hold on to old hurts at the same time.
Can you heal from a splinter if the splinter is still in your skin? You got to take that splinter out.
It's just gonna fester.
It's just gonna fester, or maybe it might calcify. And
Yeah. So I think a lot of times what people do and what I've done is knowing that okay, you're going to have to deal with this hurt is just pretend like, well, that's not a hurt.
oh yeah,
You know, oh, I was just joking. Like
yeah,
I wasn't actually offended because if I was offended, if I was hurt, well, then I got to deal with it. So I'm not actually upset. I'm not actually,
you're playing so tough that nothing ever hurts you. Whatever. That didn't even. I'll shrug
yeah.
that shit off. That doesn't even hurt me. It's
What's
like
that?
water off a duck's back.
What's that video? And I sometimes I forget that not everybody's algorithm is the same as mine.
Yeah.
There's a video that I see it all the time on TikTok where it looks like maybe it's from a reality show where this dude's on the couch and he's like clearly been crying and he's like, I'm not even crying. I'm not sad. I'm not what are you
Yeah.
talking about? And the guy's like, it looks like you got tears coming out of your eyes right now. And the guy says, no, I'm not. No, I don't.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of the same thing. Like
Yeah.
because I think there's a piece of us that recognizes that yeah, you need to deal with this. Well, not if I pretend it doesn't exist. I don't have to deal with it.
That's right. Or not if I say these special words and I'm healed and I have to
Yeah,
be healed.
yeah. So yeah, so I said I forgive him. So fuck him.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
that's
right.
a pretty good indication that
That
you didn't do it.
you didn't actually forgive him. Um, is it any different for forgiving yourself? And a lot of times when you do forgive yourself, especially with conscious awareness, I'd say the right view, it has to be for something that you did in ignorance. So is there a difference between letting go of that should that doesn't serve you, or pulling that splinter out of that someone else put there, versus you looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, Clayton, you did this and I'm dwelling on it.
Um, you, I would go back just a second. You said it would have to be out of ignorance.
Oh, well, that I don't know. Maybe,
Well,
yeah, I did say that.
I think you're onto something though. That sometimes we may do things with full knowledge that this is going to hurt somebody,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
still going to do it. But I think there's a level of ignorance even in that, and I
Because you're
think
still doing it because you think it's right.
you're
You think
still
it's appropriate.
you're still doing it with the wrong view.
Yeah.
And even if you know it's not right in the sense of acceptable behavior,
I know this isn't the right thing to do.
quote unquote, because I run into issues with right or wrong and who gets to decide that.
Hmm.
But let's say that in your sober and clear thinking mind, you would say, I don't want to do this because this is going to hurt somebody. Still, the moment you did it, okay, you did it. Does that mean you're a piece of shit and that you should not forgive yourself? I don't think so. because I think that even in that moment, you had bad information
Yeah.
that this thing that I'm going to do is going to provide what I need.
Right now.
And I think that while behavior, we should be held accountable for sure. And there are consequences to behavior for sure, natural consequences and otherwise. But everything we do is based off of motive, and everything we do makes sense if you understand the big picture. And some of it may even have to do with childhood or some things that happened 10, 20 years ago. It's still in your system. It's
Oh
still
yeah.
in the programming that makes sense why you feel this way.
Yeah. And it's even affecting how you treat and react to the world around you right now. Like they
Yeah.
did this back then, and now that I know that it did this, I know that the world is this way, so I'm going to react in the world this way. I've heard it said before that everybody always does, and there's obviously nuance of this, but everybody always does what they feel is appropriate in that time based on their circumstances and
Mm-hmm.
education, and the
Mm-hmm.
world around them.
Yeah.
It
And you can really, I mean, it's not that much of a stretch to see how that plays out. You've got even maybe a burglar, somebody who's
yeah.
kicking indoors and stealing stuff.
Hmm.
Even that can be justified and explained in your mind, right?
But they are definitely, they
Yeah.
have explained it and justified it.
And so the behavior isn't justified. There should be consequences for it, but it makes sense. It can make sense why somebody's doing it.
Yeah.
It can make a lot of sense. And in terms of like value of a person or uh, awareness or enlightenment or whatever, I'm not sure how you quantify like how far along somebody. That's regardless of how far along you are on the path. Whatever information you've got is going to be how you base. That's the
That's the
behavior.
only information you have.
That's the behavior you're going to exhibit. Is
Yeah.
the information that you have, and you wish that everybody had the same enlightenment, or the same experience as you. But this, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. I've come to a point where I'm just willing to finally acknowledge that not everybody has had the same experience as me.
That's right.
Not everybody has had the
They don't have the same
benefits
information you do.
or the information, and I see this. You and we both see this a lot with everything going on with the ice and all that kind of stuff. There's just a lot of people that don't have the same framework,
Right.
and their decisions and actions are based on what they do have, and I don't have theirs. I've
So so I look at myself and I tell you the truth, like when looking at yourself and saying I love you 10 times, when I look at 41-year-old Clayton with all the life experience and with making all the mistakes, and some of them were overt offenses, with all the offenses that he's done and with where he's at, man, it's hard for me to look at him and say I love you, I love you, I love you 10 times. But if I look at 5-year-old Clayton, I say, hey man, I love you, I forgive you, you didn't know. If I look at 13-year-old Clayton and say, hey man, I love you, I forgive you, you didn't know, you're working on just the information you have. And that was my question, is learning how to forgive yourself. You're gonna It comes to a point where you have to or I have to look at myself and say, hey man, I love you and I forgive you for having that freak out. There might still be some other work to do. You might still need to go make some things right. Maybe you don't. But either way, I'm letting go of that pain that you caused because it's no longer serving me. I'm letting go of that action you did in ignorance because it's not helping me to hold on to it anymore.
Mhm.
So maybe for both of our sakes, but definitely for my sake, I'm letting that go. I'm forgiving you. That's how right now at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I have to talk to Clayton. And I have to take those baby steps to get there.
Mhm. There's you. I know you saw the post because you interacted with it, but I watched that movie, A Beautiful Boy, with
Yeah.
Margaret last night. Have you ever seen that?
I don't think I have.
Man, it's such a good movie. I'm a big Steve Carell fan, and
Yeah.
he does a really good job, I think, in dramatic roles.
Uh-huh.
And so it's Timothy Chalamet and Steve Carell are the main characters, but Timothy Chalamet is the son, and he becomes addicted to meth.
Mm.
And dude, it's just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking in the best possible way.
Yeah.
The story of the kid trying and failing, and the dad just loving him through it. And at one point, at one point in the movie, the dad actually tries meth himself because he wants to know,
God
he
dang.
wants to feel what his son is going through. And it's just it's such a good movie. But I think that it's kind of the same idea of how we treat ourselves. That I'm not talking about just living on, doing every low vibrational impulse or satisfying every craving or living with no discipline. I don't think that we should live a hedonistic life, but I do think that when we don't live up to our own standards or other standards, I think that we just got to treat ourselves like the dad in that movie. Just
Yeah.
love ourselves, love our sons, love your kids, no matter how bad they fuck up.
My spiritual mentor, who is still very much a Christian, he's not a Western evangelical anymore, but he's still very much a Christian. I check in with him often, and um, he tells me to learn to see yourself and love yourself the way that God loves and sees you. And the idea that he's working on, and the one that I like and jive with, is God is that perfect father. God is that perfect, all knowing, all loving thing of like, how does he see you? How does he? And like, I know that might be triggering or whatever, but we're talking about that version of God. Like, if you can look at yourself and see yourself the way that God loves you so much that he gave his only begotten son, that he was willing to sacrifice himself for you, not in the cheesy way, but like, and maybe in the deeper, real truth of that. He loves you so much that on top of every awful thing, he was still willing to die, and he still loves you and accepts you no matter what. That's one idea, and that's well and great. But if you can look at yourself and see, just try to see yourself. Maybe it's not that, but I think the one that fits with us is like how you would treat your child, but that unconditional, altruistic love that, like, hey man, like Steve Carell in this movie, I'm gonna love you through this no matter what.
Mhm.
I'm just going to love you. Woo!
Yeah, you should watch the movie. It
Okay.
really is good, and it's got a great soundtrack. Um, there's a football game on today.
Yeah, I got it's been going on. I promised my wife I was gonna check out and watch the rest of it with her here in a little bit.
Oh,
There's Philly is what is it? The
I think it's the Bills and the Broncos.
and
And
49ers and the
San
Eagles,
Francisco.
or not the
Is
Eagles,
that right? I don't
Seahawks.
think. Okay.
Yeah, San
I
Francisco and the Seahawks.
I quit watching a few weeks ago when Kansas City was mathematically eliminated.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think that I would mind so much if Denver won. I wouldn't mind if Denver made
No,
it to the Super Bowl.
I'm
You know,
actually I'm pulling for the Bronx on this. They could be a B team or a C team for me. I got family
yeah,
in Denver. I got
yeah.
friends in Denver.
I used to hate the Broncos just because they were AFC West, or
Uh-huh.
AFC West. But in terms of the rest of the division, I like them a lot more than the Raiders, a lot
Yeah.
more than the Bills.
Yeah.
I don't mind Seattle or San Diego anymore. Uh, actually, is it even? Are they? Do they play in San Diego still? The Chargers? They moved to LA, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't mind. They used to have a linebacker named Junior Seau,
Yeah,
and
hell yeah.
he would just eat our lunch. And
I
so
worked with
just
his cousin in the Navy.
did you really?
Yeah,
That's cool.
Kalani Maga.
And this goes back to something we were talking about a few weeks ago. Like I hated those teams.
Uh huh.
But if Junior Seau would have come to play for Kansas City, I'd have loved him
Yep. You're
because
redeemed.
he was wearing the right jersey.
That's right.
Same thing. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of silly, really. Um, but I am rooting for the Broncos. I think this year.
Yeah. I feel like the whole universe, maybe the consciousness behind the universe, the loving consciousness behind the universe, is pointing out how silly of a game this is. Not silly as in dismissive, but silly as in to be held on loosely. Hold it loosely. Hold your affiliations and your ideas and your identities of how the world is supposed to be. Hold that real loosely because things can change. As much as like you hated Junior
And
Seau,
they will change. I
they
think
will.
something that I've this is kind of a cool thought project. I haven't dove real deep on it, but it's something I want to think about the laws of the universe.
Hmm.
Like, what are just some things that are true about the universe? Another thing that I've got written on my board is that the universe echoes back what I put into it,
Yeah.
and I think that that's true. I think that that's a
Yeah.
what would you call that? Like
A
self
universal
a
or
self
evident.
a self evident truth. Um, there's a there's a term for it, but I want to do some kind of deep dive thinking on like what's the nature of the universe. I think
Yeah.
that one, I think that the universe is fundamentally good. I
Yeah.
think that it turns eventually everything turns itself toward good, kind of like a Weeble Wobble. Did you ever play with those? Like
Yeah.
it's oriented to come back up, and I
Hmm.
think that's probably true of the universe. Um, I think that the universe echoes back what we put in. What are some other
Well, man,
fundamental truths do you think?
I was going to add one that I think is far out there. Um, and I don't know if it's the truth as much as it is a prediction that is real and it's real in our lives is that eventually everything, eventually the kingdom of God will return. And what I mean by that is eventually the Weeble Wobble will stand up. There's an idea in Tibetan Buddhism, no, not Tibetan Buddhism, in another form of like the Chinese and Japanese, the line of Zen, Theravada or Mahayana, my apologies, that there's this idea of a bodhisattva that reaches, is like right on the threshold of enlightenment and instead says, I'm actually gonna not go toward nirvana until they make a vow until every conscious being is delivered, is saved. So there's this idea in Buddhism, and I think it's kind of the same thing as a final return to heavenly order. Is eventually, I think we're gonna make it out of this mess. Eventually, I think God will return, and if He hasn't yet, if it everything's going to work out in the end, and if it's not working out, then it's not the end.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
think I think that is articulated in a way that I like in Buddhism, but I think it's the end times.
So is that the concept? Does that go in line with the universe that all things work together for good?
Yeah, I think so.
That
For the glory
eventually,
of God.
yeah, for the glory of itself.
That's right.
Which is so crazy to me how all of these thoughts are in the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
The
just
kingdom of heaven is within.
yes, and it's here.
That's right.
You just have to look at it a little bit differently.
That's right. You have to have a right view. You have to change your view. That necessarily requires letting go of old views. That necessarily, in order to gain a new view, you have to necessarily change your view in
Yeah.
order to grasp that new view.
Well, you can't really hold on to both at the same time.
No, it's impossible. Frodo can never return. Frodo could never return
Mm.
to the Shire as the same Frodo that left the Shire. He went on that journey. He can never see the world the same.
That's dude. I want to sit with that for a second. That's heavy.
Yeah, man.
I think there's something to that. So we're 2 hours in.
Uh,
Do you want to break off and watch the game?
yeah, I'm
Got
gonna
anything
have
else?
to. I owe that to
Okay.
Ashley. I told her I would.
Okay. All right.
Well, hey, so everyone, this was a fucking banger, son. This was a good one. Um, you guys are welcome. I mean, drop your tithe in the donation plate as it goes around. And
We'll
by
just
do
keep
it,
sending the bucket back until that bucket gets full. So
that's right. You're gonna
do it
keep
now, do it
repeating this
later.
game.
You got to pay.
That's right. That's right. Man, um, I believe that all things are working out. And they definitely all things work out in the end. And if they're not, it's not the end.
All right. Well, my man, I love you, and I'll catch you later on.
I love you. Adios.
Adios.